Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started so that we can be on time. That's one of my mini goals. So today we're going to talk about prospecting and how important that is, not only for your business, but also to do it consistently and to do it well. And not to forget about those sources that maybe are overlooked sometimes. So for today, we're going to start by talking about expired listings, or listings that have been on the market for an extended amount of time and were not able to be sold. So I always start this way. You guys know how important it is that I include this, our mission and our vision. So not only do I share this with you guys so that you can see what we're about on a company level and what we aspire to be, but also to get you thinking about your own business and your own life and what is your mission? What is it that you set out to do every day? And then what is your vision on how you're going to get there? Again, these are on a company level, and it's fundamentally who we are as a company. If you got Charlie's Monday Morning Mojo, you heard him touch on that a little bit about, really being able to communicate who we are, what we're about, where we want to go, and what we want to do. So it's really perfect timing. And our mission, we want to empower and create opportunities for our agents to live an abundant life. Now, our values, same thing. What is it that you stand firm on? What are those things that are totally non-negotiable for you? And what is it that you want to inject into your own businesses and into your own lives every day? Again, these are values on a company level. So God, family, integrity, excellence, discipline, responsibility, and humor. I love all of those. I could probably do a class just on those alone. But again, it's designed to get you thinking about your own values in business and in your life. Same thing when it comes to beliefs. The one in blue is the one that's relevant to today. And that one is, we believe there's no growth without discomfort. So true on every level. But a lot of these really can apply to our discussions today as well. So what we're going to talk about today is a proactive approach so that we can effectively move into these productive relationships with people who once indicated a real need to sell their home. So hopefully by the time that we're done, you could feel even a little bit more confident enough to consistently reach out to these people. And here's what you can do to get the most out of our talk today. Try to keep an open mind. A lot of times I've heard from various people, why would you even bother with an expired listing? Is that something I really want to do? Keep an open mind anyway. It may surprise you. And then try to write down anything that stands out to you. Okay, so here's what we know. 90%, that's 9 out of 10, y'all. 90% of expired listings still have the desire to sell their home. Okay, so the overall plan. And you guys know, since everything that we do is based off of the overall cycle of the real estate sales game, we incorporate this into all of our classes so that you can see how a prospecting source or converting a lead fits in with the overall sales cycle of real estate. So today, for our discussion, we're talking about prospecting, and that is expired listings. That's our prospecting source. We have a goal in mind, and that is to generate new leads. Then we want to be able to convert them, so lead conversion. We want to convert them into sellers, our sellers more specifically. From there, that's going to tell us how we can drop them into our client care systems. How are we going to service our client as best that we can? And then we move over here to marketing in the form of yard signs, home ads, the internet, which could go on, and then just listed campaigns. It cycles right back up in the form of new leads. Okay, this, if you're visual, you will love. This really just illustrates the financial security that comes along with being proactive in the way that you generate your leads. This works off of a 45-week year rather than 52, because let's be honest, not all of us work every week of the year. We are people, we take personal time. So this operates off of 3 phases. The first being when you're consistent. That's when you're just starting out, but you have committed to prospecting to this particular pool of people, expired listings, every week. Then we move on to phase 2, which is what we call the efficient phase. So now that you're consistent, it's part of your daily routine. It's part of your weekly routine. You get better at having these conversations. So you're more efficient in the way that you convert and the way that you generate leads. Then after we're efficient, we can only be one thing, and that's proficient. So what you guys are going to see is that the dials that you make every week, that's 50 a week. So say that you committed to working Monday through Friday, that's 10 calls a day, right? So 50 dials per week, that doesn't change. So it's not like you start out making 50 calls a week and then you make 100 calls and 200 calls. It's the same throughout the course of the year, or however long you choose to do this and incorporate this into your business. So 50 dials per week, that results in more than 2,000 dials for the year, which is crazy. The response rate when you're consistent all the way to proficient is, let's just say 15%. Okay. So that results in what, 300 and some odd calls, or talks rather. If you connect at 15% on the phone anyway, then that's 330 talks, 338 to be exact. Now, what you're going to notice here is that the rate in which you set the appointments is going to start increasing. The better you get with this, the more comfortable you get with this. So when you're consistent, and y'all, just so you know, these are template numbers. So this is what you could expect if you're doing it, just starting out, and you get better and better and better. So say at the very beginning when you're just starting out, you set appointments maybe 7.5%. Okay. So that results in 25 appointments that you set. Say that 30% cancel. That leaves you with 18 actual meetings. And if you convert half, that's 9 listings just by being consistent. Say that you sell half of those, that's 5 that were sold for that year that you would not have sold had you not reached out to this pool of people on a consistent basis. So as you get better and better, as you get more and more comfortable, those conversion rates, the rate in which you have talks, the way that you set the appointment, the actual appointments you have, all of those numbers increase over time as you become more comfortable with what you're doing. So you can see you move from 9 total listings when you're in phase 1, where you're just being consistent, all the way up to 52 when you're proficient, and then you'll see however many that were sold for the year also drastically increases from 5 all the way to 47. So it pays to be proactive. It pays to be consistent in our efforts, because the results will show that. So then let's talk about what we need to know and what we need to have in order to do what we're setting out to do. Because again, it's all about simplifying it as much as we can, not worrying about casting such a large net to where we become overwhelmed and there's too much to do and there's just a million things that we didn't accomplish. So then we're frustrated and then we beat ourselves up. So it just goes on and on in this vicious, ugly cycle. Instead, we are intentional with what we're setting out to do. So it only makes sense to be intentional in the way that we approach that. So our method, or what we're trying to do, is what we call the call to close method. So what do we need to know? Well, we need to know what to say. That is pretty much the same thing for each of the courses that we teach. It all comes down to that dialogue, that exchange, that conversation. What is it that we need to say? And then what do we need to have? We need to have our call list. We need, obviously, a list of people that we want to reach out to. We need to have a tracking sheet to see how we're doing. And then we also need to have our pre-listing questionnaire in the event that they are ready to go and they want to list with you. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. So why even bother calling an expired listing? So I hear this quite a bit. People are like, well, obviously there's an issue with the home. It didn't sell, or maybe that seller is just super complicated, or so on and so forth. The other question that I hear a lot is, well, anytime that I have reached out to an expired listing seller or a seller whose listing expired, they are super cranky and very irritated. So my response to that is try to put yourself in their shoes a little bit. Typically, if they're in a listing agreement, those are usually 6 months or so, 180 days. Can you imagine how you would feel if you were promised one thing and then it didn't get delivered? Or being in a situation where your home is on the market for 6 months with no real result, especially when your goal is to sell it, you'd be pretty cranky too. And you'd be a little jaded and you'd feel like something just, you had bad luck or that somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. So put yourself in their shoes, try to empathize a little bit, and come from a place of understanding right off the bat. So here's what it looks like, just to kind of drive that point home for a typical expired listing. Typically what happens, the first week the home is on the market, right? Showings are full, activity is happening. Something is giving a seller hope that things are gonna work out the way that we want them to work out. The agent is in good communication, constant communication with that seller, and the client, the seller, is excited, okay? There's no reason why they shouldn't be. A month goes by, showings are still happening, but they've kind of slowed down a little bit. And then the agent is still communicating very regularly, very consistently. But now, since the client whose home has been on the market for over a month, they're starting to feel a little bit rejected. Now, fast forward to 3 months, there's very limited showings on this property. There's very little communication coming from the agent, and the client has moved from feeling rejected to depressed. Why hasn't my home sold when other homes are selling? I see everybody's selling. What's wrong with mine? And what's wrong with you? Why haven't you sold this house, right? Which leads us to 6 months down the line where there's no activity in terms of showing. There's no communication between the agent and the seller. And now the client is angry, as you would be too. So by the time that listing actually does expire, they are mad as hornets, and all real estate agents suddenly become the same. All real estate agents are the same. They aren't what they say they are, blah, 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 blah. So our goal when we're prospecting to these expired listings is to approach it in a way that is non-threatening, non-sales pitchy, because remember, they were promised one thing and it was not delivered on. So they were already given the pitch and then it didn't come to fruition, okay? So our goal is really to get in front of them. So move from a phone call to a face-to-face. That's our goal, so that we can deliver what our value proposition is and have them self-discover on their own that you are different, okay? You are not what we would call a typical real estate agent. You are more of a consultant, and there's a big difference. So when we're calling to these expired listings and these sellers, our only purpose is to get them into a meeting with you face-to-face. That's it. Because think about it, if you can get them in the door, it's pretty likely that they're still very much committed and they really want to sell this house. I always felt like that whenever I was doing commercial real estate leasing. I felt like if I could get them in the building, if I could just get them through the front door, that I had probably 75% or better chance to close them on that lease, or at least get them on our list to where we could kind of nurture that for a few months and then get them into the building. So same logic here. You want to try to get them interested enough in understanding that you are different to where you can communicate that fully face-to-face. Okay, so it's really not about presenting what you can do for them over the phone. It's not really even about presenting why you're different. It's just about opening the door to as many relationships as possible. So when you boil it down, it's let's sit down and talk to see if I am a viable option for you. Not, hey, let's talk. I want your listing. I'm going to market it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That's not what we're about in this particular arena. It's let's just sit down and have a conversation to see if we're a good fit for each other, if I'm a viable option for you. I love that so much. I think that that is a great way to initiate a conversation, and especially a face-to-face meeting, because it's not threatening and it's got nothing to do with selling them anything. It's just, hey, let's just sit down and talk. Do you guys agree? I think so too. Yeah. So a couple of things to tell yourself, because I'm a big believer in this as well. You have to believe that you do have the capability to add value, because you do. Every single one of you add a tremendous amount of value beyond just what your checklist is for each one of your listings. So if you truly believe that you have the ability to add value here, then you should also believe that you owe every expired listing in your market, in your area especially, the opportunity to meet with you to determine if they can benefit from your approach. Now, little side note, we can't control what these expired sellers are going to say or what they're going to do. But what we can control is the number of relationships that we attempt to create on a daily basis through these daily phone calls. And this is a lesson that my mom tried to teach me from an early age. We cannot control what people say or do, but we can control the actions that we take, and the way that we respond, and the way that we go about our days. So great lesson there from mom. Great lesson here, as it kind of is on that same plane. We have no control over what they're going to tell us or what they're going to do, right? But we can control what we do to help them. Okay. So I love this. For better results, here are a few things to keep in mind whenever you're prospecting. You want to be MAD, M-A-D. M stands for mentally tough. You got to be mentally tough. Have that thick skin, because again, they very well could be very cranky when you make that initial phone call. So to do that, in order to have thick skin, you also have to be committed. You have to be committed to your goal, committed to that mission of daily, consistent phone calls. And then finally, and this helps with all of this, you have to be detached from the outcome. You can't take it personally if they don't want to work with anyone, because it's not just you. They think all realtors are the same. That's got nothing to do with you. And whether or not they say yes or no, it really isn't personal. So we have to be completely detached from the outcome, which is easy, because if we approach it from the perspective of, hey, let's just sit down and talk to see if I'm a viable option, versus going about it saying, oh, let me get the listing, you will be detached, because either they do or they don't want to meet with you, right? It's not about let me get the listing or not get the listing. So that should help you remain detached from whatever outcome results from having that initial phone call. Okay, so we know that all great athletes have what we refer to as a warm-up. That makes sense. So it helps them to get what? Focused. Warm-ups are generally designed to kind of zero in on what's about to happen. They're good too, because they're just good conditioning, but really the purpose of a warm-up is to get focused. So we apply that same logic here. Here's a few things that you can do before you make your calls. You want to review the office mission, the vision, the values. What is it that you stand firm on? Review the core beliefs. Rehearse out loud any of the scripts for maybe 10 minutes, just so you can hear yourself say what needs to be said, to where it sounds more natural whenever you're actually having the conversation. And then lastly, visualize successful conversations and the outcomes that you want for the last 5 minutes leading up to that phone call. I've read a ton of information on how important it is to visualize what you want. That's why you hear about vision boards, and you think about writing your goals down and putting them in a place where you can see them. This speaks to that. Whenever you can visualize the successful outcome that you're after, it does something to your mind to where it sort of tricks you into saying, okay, this is going to happen. And then you're not as nervous whenever you're actually doing it, because you've already seen it happen in your mind. Fascinating stuff. There's all sorts of goodies on LinkedIn, by the way, about stuff related to this and how important it is to visualize the results that you want. Okay, so that's leading up to the call. That's our warm up. So let's talk about how to stay focused during those phone calls. And if nothing else, here's what I want you guys to take away. Energy is the key. 100%, no doubt about it. Why do you think that is?
You're going to get them excited again. I don't know. You're going to show them that you're going to work hard.
Totally. Now, energy is the key, especially in a phone call capacity, because they don't get the privilege of meeting you face to face. So energy is one of those things that is very, very much picked up on immediately once a phone call starts. If you're upbeat and you're positive and you're optimistic, then it's very likely they're going to feel that. It's kind of like you guys have probably heard before, you know when the person you're talking to on the phone is smiling. They can't see it, but they know it. Same thing that if you're grumpy or if you've had a bad day, they're going to know very quickly, even though they're not in front of you to see it. So it's the same thing. How you project over the phone matters. So here's a few things that'll help. You want to make your calls behind closed doors so that your focus can't be interrupted. You can do this here by going into our home office, going into the conference room. Wherever you feel most comfortable is where you need to make those phone calls. Your environment has to support your goals, okay? Secondly, stand up when making your phone calls. I do this a lot, and I didn't even realize that I did it until someone had pointed it out, and then when I realized it for myself after going through this several times. I just think it helps to keep you focused, and it helps with your energy. I love it. If you haven't tried it, I would encourage you to try that. Third, you want to remain upbeat, positive, and confident. Number 4, you also want to sound genuinely interested in trying to help them without sounding desperate. Now, if your intentions are pure, this should be pretty easy because really, we're not trying to sell at this point. Now, that's the underlying goal, obviously, but we shouldn't be trying to sell at that phone call. Remember, what we're trying to accomplish is let's just sit down and talk where we can find out if I'm a viable option for you based on your needs and what your goals are. Okay.
It'd be nice if we had a class just on that topic.
What's that?
Just going through role play. I mean, because that is one of the hardest things ever because your intent somehow comes through whether whatever you're doing. Like, I don't know. I don't even know if that would even be possible to have a class on that because it's kind of out there, but I don't know, just role-playing ideas because I think a lot of times what we think doesn't sound that way, sounds that way if you're somebody else who's not, in real estate.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
A common person, to us it sounds, not as, intimidating, when we throw it back and forth each other because we all do that, But to someone on the outside, I mean, it might sound the opposite of what we think it does.
Do you think it would be helpful to see it maybe like in a panel setting where you have a table up here of agents or realtors of various experience levels where they kind of pair and do it amongst each other where y'all can see it? Or do you think that it would benefit you more to kind of do, you guys know like speed dating capacity where you just kind of hop from like group to group to group and you practice with different people?
I think I would like to see a panel like you said initially with the experienced agents who've been doing this forever and because theirs has to have evolved.
Oh, totally.
Their approach has to have evolved over the years and it's probably pretty efficient by now.
Oh yeah.
As far as that goes and maybe hear, some things, maybe some things that they learned not to say that they said before that didn't work out or whatever. Just anything like that would probably be good.
Okay, let me see what I can do.
Which I've Googled some of that on like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, there's lots of stuff on there what not to say and stuff like that. But just out of the, just there's value in knowing somebody who is successful because you don't really know how successful.
Right, true.
Some of them are just successful at having a site that tells you what to do, and they may not be actually successful realtors. So, I don't know. That would be interesting.
Okay, let me see what I can do because, like I've told you guys several times, We work in the best office in the whole wide world, and everybody is always so willing to help.
Yeah. Even if they don't want to like do it in person, if they just written on paper, you know, from these agents that have this experience, that might be easier for them just to tell you what they say, because it's so easy.
Sure.
Right. And they've probably heard every opposition.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, like what are the main oppositions that
and
come
then how do you
forward,
counter
and then
it?
how do you counter that?
Yes.
What do they always get?
Yes.
And they already know it's going to go along this way.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. Great idea, guys. Okay, and then finally, remain focused. You can do this by staying hydrated, and I know that sounds so silly, but it makes a huge difference, because here's the thing. If you're thirsty or if you're hungry or whatever the case may be, you are going to be distracted, 100%. That's all you're going to be able to think about until you can just get off that phone and get your drink or whatever it is that you want, whether it's your coffee or your bottle of water, your Coke, whatever. Try to take care of all of that prior so that you're not thinking about it during the call. And then after the call, evaluate, track, measure, rate the call on a scale of 1 to 10. So ask yourself, what would have made it a 10 plus? Review the scripts that are in your workbooks, and then rehearse out loud the preferred response. This is valuable as well, even though it is so uncomfortable, it's very valuable, because the more you say it, the more it evolves into being your own version of it, to where it's then authentic, then it's comfortable, then it's just part of who you are and part of the way that you speak. So you guys know I'm not somebody who is a big advocate for scripts, but I do think they serve a great purpose in teaching you what you should say in the correct order in which of how it needs to be said. So review the scripts, rehearse them out loud, and rehearse out loud the preferred response. Do you guys do this at all yet? Where you kind of read the script and then say it out loud after you've read it a few times to kind of internalize it?
I've never said them out loud, and that makes perfect sense, because what you think in your head and what comes out of your mouth, 9 times out of 10, complete opposite, or not.
Sure.
Definitely not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing too, the beauty of scripts is that you can do them when you're at home, when you're not around anybody, when you're in the car and you're stuck in pickup line, or if you're in traffic or whatever the case may be. It allows you to practice before you actually get in front of a real life human who's expecting you to say all the right things at exactly the right time. So use them to help you grow in your own conversations. Use them to practice and train before you actually get in front of a person. So we talked about those beliefs in the form of getting yourself kind of primed to have these conversations. It helps to remind ourselves of what we know to be true as it relates to listings in general. So homes sell for 2 reasons. Price. What's the other one? Exposure. Okay. So 95% of all buyers are represented by a realtor. That's good to know. Let's look at some other ones here. Realtors are not looking through home ads or taking virtual tours. This is a good one. Number 4, homes sell in all 4 quarters. Because here's why this is so important to remind ourselves, right? Because what if you're working with, or you prospect to an expired seller, and they tell you, well, our agent just said we didn't sell because we listed at the wrong time of the year. False. It's usually going to boil down to price or exposure, and of course, condition. But really, the 2 main reasons, price and exposure. So where does the problem lie? This helps you sort of diagnose what the problem is to help overcome it. Okay? So pricing homes, neighborhood specific. Number 6, this one is the big one. My approach is intentional and it's proactive. Number 7, we must start with appropriate plans and strategies. Do you guys agree with that? I do. Cost is only an issue, number 8, in the absence of what? Value. That's a big one, especially when you could be presented with an objection related to your commission. Okay. But I would argue that is so true in every avenue of life. Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. That's, I always tell my husband, I do not mind paying more if I know what I'm going to get is quality. Don't mind it. I don't even consider the cost. If I know what I'm going to get is exactly what I want to get. It's the same thing in what you do in your businesses. It's the same. So cost is only an issue in the absence of value, and more importantly, what's perceived as value. So number 9, this is a big one. I am not seeking your listing. I'm just after a conversation. Okay. And number 10, there are 2 very different approaches to listing homes. Can you guys tell me what those are? So the 2 approaches that are very valuable to know here, 2 different approaches to listing a home. You can take a listing or you can sell a listing. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about then making the calls. What if they're not home on that first phone call and you get presented with a voicemail? Because let's be honest, most of the time you're calling someone's cell phone. It's not a home line or a landline. So the first message that you want to leave needs to be vague. It's kind of like a breadcrumb, like, let me dangle that carrot. I'm not going to put all my cards on the table. It's just enough to make them say, I wonder what that's about, right? It's to generate interest. So call number 1, you get a machine. What does that sound like? What does that look like? The message is like, hey, this is LaJonna and I'm with RE/MAX One. I'm calling in regards to your home for sale. Please return my call at your earliest convenience. I can be reached at, leave your number. Thanks. Hope you're having a great day. Can you guys see how vague this is? This does not say, I want to talk to you. I'd love to know about your home, blah, blah, blah. This is just, I'm just calling in regards to your home for sale. And they're going to be like, oh, what's that about? They're not going to know. They're going to have no idea. So that is the first message if they're not home and you have to leave a message on their voicemail. Now, say they don't return your phone call and you have to make a second call. Okay, obviously pick a different time. So if you called in the morning and they weren't home, what would logic tell you to try next? Calling in the afternoon. Okay, so the next message you can leave should be more specific, right? So there's a couple of different ways you can approach this, and this is the dialogue that I would share with you guys. So the top one, hi, this is Sherry with RE/MAX One, and I specialize in homes that should have sold but didn't. Please return my phone call at whatever number so that we can discuss the other options you have in getting your home sold. That's option number 1. Now, that one is a little bit more like mic drop, boom, like, hey, I specialize in homes that should have sold but didn't. Now, if that's your personality, I say go for it and you just do it. Rock out. If it's not, that is not my personality. Second option is right underneath here. Starts off the same way, as all phone calls should. Hi, this is Christy with RE/MAX One. I would like to talk to you about a more proactive way to sell your home. Please return my phone call so that we can discuss the other options that you have in getting your home sold. Thanks, and I hope you're having a great day. I love that one because it reinforces that proactive approach, the intentional and proactive approach that you have incorporated into each aspect of your business, right? So it's just kind of subliminally reinforcing what your business stands firm on, okay? So if y'all had to choose, which one is more in line with your own approach? 1 or 2?
I think the second one, especially from my point of view, I'm thinking that the first one might set you up to create even a worse taste in their mouth about a realtor. If for some reason out of your control, you still are not able to sell it.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
They might be still so stubborn that the price is still not going to change. And
because
nothing you can do to change their mind. You would hope.
Right, because you don't want to force them. That almost is making a promise.
True.
That maybe you
have no control over.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. Yep, I agree with you. Now, maybe your niche, maybe you find out as you get more involved in this
I'm
that
thinking
you
later
are
on
a
you can
rock
say that.
star
Right.
at being able to take an expired listing and getting it sold.
Right.
And if that's the case, by all
Then
means,
come back in 10
Right.
years and use that approach.
by all
Right.
means, because I kind of feel like too, you got to be able to back up what you're saying.
Yeah,
You got to
that's
be able to back up and tangibly show evidence as to why you're doing as well as you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So same thing there. I like to be able to back up anything that I kind of put out there, especially when I'm marketing myself. So I tend to go more toward option number 2 because I like that it reinforces the way that we view our business and the way that we view the systems and processes in our business. Okay. Now, consistency. Oh my goodness. The first goal with any new activity is to build confidence, first of all, and consistency. So if you guys remember at the very beginning of this, when I showed you the graph showing when you're consistent and then you're efficient and then you're proficient, you got to be consistent first before you can be efficient or proficient. So you got to make it a part of your daily routine in the way that you time block, in the way that you dedicate your hours to a certain part of your day to prospecting. Make it part of your daily routine. It has to be habitual to where it is just part of the daily process, where it's expected. You know, I'm making 10 calls to this prospecting pool every day. I'm going to make 5 calls to this one. I'm going to do this much professional development. That way your day is planned and you know that you hit all of those boxes the way that you're supposed to, so that you can walk away and say, I'm so glad I did that today versus I wish I would have. Because here's the thing. If 90%, 9 out of 10, if 90% of expired sellers still have the need to sell their home, somebody out there is going to sell it. So why can't it be you? Okay, that's my logic on it. That's the way I view it. Okay, so making it a habit. This one is good. Say that they answer, right? So this is the dialogue. The first 2 options were if they weren't there and you had to leave a message. So now let's talk about if you actually get them on the phone. So starts the same way. You want to tell them who you are and who you work with. So, hi, my name is Kristen with Remax One. I noticed that your home listing expired today, and I was calling to see if you still have a need to sell your home. Now, they may tell you, yes, I absolutely do, and it'd be nice if somebody could sell it because, right, you're in 6 months at this point. Or no, we've actually changed our mind. We don't have any more need to sell it. We're just going to take it off the market for a while. Okay. It's not our job to push at that point, right? Because it's not about selling and it's not about getting the listing. It's just about opening that door, making that connection. So if they tell you no, no problem. Thank you. Have a great day. If they tell you yes, we still have a need to sell our home, that's great. How about we get together to see if I'm a viable option for you based on your needs and your goals in getting this home sold? Or you could approach it this way. May I set an appointment to come by and meet with you to where we can talk about your needs and getting your home sold in a proactive way to make sure that we check all the boxes, to make sure that we're a good fit for each other. If they tell you yes, that's when you want to kind of move into your listing process, that listing conversation. So the pre-listing questions. Tell me about your home. I see that it's got 3 bedrooms. It has 2 baths. Tell me more about your favorite features. Are you the sole owner of the home? You know, how long have you lived there? Why are you selling? The same that you would with any other type of listing. That's the direction that you want to take it. The other way that you can approach opening this conversation up, if you are able to connect with them on the phone, you could ask them, hey, you know, I know that your home listing is expiring today. I was calling to see if you're still serious about selling your home. I love that because, again, it sort of reinforces that you have a particular seller that you work with, and you also have processes designed for that type of seller in your business. So same thing. They'll either tell you, yes, we still want to sell our home, or no, we don't. If it's a no, thank you so much. You know, I hope you have a great day. If it's a yes, how about we get together for an hour where you can tell me what your goals are, what your needs are in getting this home sold, and we'll figure out if I'm a good fit for you. If they say that sounds great, perfect, we haven't heard from our agent in 4 months, perfect, tell me about the home. That's when you move into those pre-listing questions. Obviously, you're going to see it in the MLS. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, whatever the case may be. But get them to engage. That's what you're after. You want them to tell you, are they the sole owner? All those things that matter and that can help you sort of price the home. Tell me about what your favorite features are. Why are you moving? Do you have a home that you're moving into already? How long have you lived here? That sort of thing. Pre-listing questions should also be in your packet as well. If they're not, let me know. I'll send you just the PDF of those pre-listing questions. It looks like a form. And for those of you who joined us a little later in Zoom, these workbooks are now on Back Agent. If you go log into Back Agent and you see the top menu, which is a red bar, and it says Home, Transactions, Office, Learn, Marketplace, you click on Office. On the next page that you're brought to, there's going to be a button that says Documents. Click on Documents and then click on Training Materials. And these, for the week anyway, are shown in that part of Back Agent where you can directly download the workbooks onto your computer. So what if during the phone call that you're having, a little bit of hesitation from your seller? Okay. So so it opens the same way. I noticed that your home listing expired. I was calling to see if you're still serious about selling your home. Well, yes, we are. Okay, great. So is there a good time tomorrow, or is 2 o'clock tomorrow a good time where we can sit down for about an hour to see if I'm a good fit for you in getting your home sold based on your needs and your goals? If they say, well, yeah, but I don't know. And okay, so there's hesitation there. You can move into either no problem. If they tell you no, especially, that should be your response. No problem. I hope you have a great day. But if you feel like there's hesitation and you could possibly convert them, I don't think it hurts to ask them more questions. Okay. Stay curious, right? Understanding where the hesitation is. So if you sense hesitation, you can let them know, okay, just to kind of put your mind at ease, just know that I consider myself to be a real estate consultant. Okay, so I like to work with homes that should have sold but didn't. I like to be able to help our seller figure out where we can improve to put ourselves in the best position to sell. Okay. If it's okay, what I'm after and what I'd like to do is just simply come by, visit with you for an hour where you can tell me what your needs are, what your goals are in getting your home sold, and then you can decide if I'm a viable option for you. Okay. Together, we can then decide how to move forward from there. I love that. I feel like, and you guys tell me what you think, would you feel put off by that if somebody approached you that way? Would you feel like you were being sold to or pitched to in any way? I don't get that from that kind of dialogue, because again, what I love and what you guys are going to notice in the dialogue that's in each of your workbooks, it always switches the focus back on them. It puts the ball back in their court and it makes the conversation revolve around their needs, their goals, their hopes, their dreams, their wishes. It just goes on and on and on. So when you approach it in the way that, look, I would just like to come by, introduce myself, where you can tell me what you want to accomplish in the sale of your home, what your needs are, what your goals are, and then you can decide if I'm a good fit for you, if I'm a viable option for you in getting your home sold. Do you guys see the difference? Versus somebody who just calls and said, hey, so I saw your home listing expired. I can get that sold. I mean, there's just no question in my mind. I can get it sold. So if you'll let me get the listing, if you'll let me list it for you, I'll just get it sold because I can market it and I can do social media and I can do this, that, and the other. Big difference. Because again, that seller was probably made the same promise 6 months ago and it didn't happen. And until you really get to know the seller and understand the property and understand what you're working with, you can't understand the challenges until you're communicating about those challenges. To know even how to overcome them, right? So how could you possibly solve a problem that you don't know what the problem even is? You got to understand it first.
Why I really like the question, why do you feel your home didn't sell?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can somehow figure out how to address that with what you're going to do, then you're creating value.
Sure.
So yeah.
And your approach is going to work too if they're like, well, I'm still kind of working with my real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
That whole, let's see if we're a good fit, and then you get to choose. You can continue to work with this realtor, or
absolutely,
maybe we might be a good fit together.
Right.
And do you know what you just described? Self-discovery on the seller's part. So at the very least, it's a second opinion. At the very least, hey, look, I'm not trying to get you to to list your home. I'm not trying to get your listing. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want to meet with you so you can tell me, don't let me tell you, so you can tell me what your needs are, what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish in the sale of your home. And then I'll let you decide if I'm a viable option for you after our conversation. You, LaJonna, are 100% right, which leads us to the other side of this graph here. So if you ask them, hey, look, I just am calling to see if you're still serious about selling your home, and they tell you no, have your plans changed? Now, this is good for you to know too, because it tests motivation on their part. So either maybe it's a property they inherited and they just are like, oh no, we're just going to take it off the market for a while. It's not a real need to sell it. You need to know that right off the bat anyway. So it's good to ask these questions. Always ask the questions. Now, if they tell you, no, our plans haven't changed, we just don't want to list it because, again, they're probably upset. They're still on the market forever and ever and ever. So perfect opportunity. Well, let me just ask you, why do you think that your home didn't sell? I would venture to guess that no one has even asked them that question. I bet you they haven't. And they may tell you, oh, well, whenever it was shown, we heard that, they didn't like the exterior. That can be overcome. Or there was no feedback given because it was not asked for. So lots of opportunity there. And another great question is, okay, if you could sell your home tomorrow, would you? And that also tests their motivation a little bit. And it'll give you a glimpse into how strong that need really is. So if you ask them, hey, look, if you could sell your home tomorrow, would you? And they're like, yes, that tells you right there, it is a necessity. It has to happen. So either they're going to list it on their own or they're going to find somebody else to list it. So why can't it be you? Okay. So really, really good opportunities there to kind of dive deep into the reasoning behind a no or a reason behind a hesitation. And again, it all centers on, let's just sit down and talk. At the very least, it'll give you a second opinion and a fresh set of eyes on your property. Okay. Do you have any questions about this? Okay. So what resonated with you today? Was there anything that just jumped out at you that made you go, oh my gosh, light bulb?
For me, just making the calls.
Okay.
Talking with other agents.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the market that they've been blessed with, and I say they because I'm just licensed. I think that they haven't had to call on expired. They haven't had to do some of the stuff that use some of those lead sources. So
sure.
I just coming in as a new agent and knowing that the market is starting to maybe level out, that this needs to be something that I get good familiar with. Just make the calls. Even if I get a no every time, I will be sharpening that skill.
Absolutely.
So that when it is needed, maybe I'll be proficient in it.
Yes.
And go forward. So it's just going ahead and doing it, even if somebody else maybe doesn't think that it's the thing that you should.
Yeah, and remember, and this is what I would keep in the back of my mind. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So at one point, 10 out of 10 had the need to sell their home.
Yeah, so pure math.
9
will
out of
tell you at
10.
some point in time, you make enough calls, there's going to be a yes.
There's going to be a bite.
So, yeah.
At the very least, though, too, guys, you create opportunity for new relationships,
Right.
to grow your network, to put more people into your realm, into your sphere of influence, to where you are reaching out to people who need your help.
Yep.
They just maybe don't
And
feel like they need the
not
help.
now doesn't mean never.
And
So,
not now
yeah.
does not mean never. That is exactly right. Exactly right.
So you've been doing this for a while. Real estate?
Oh, yeah, years ago though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that it was.
Oh,
that
yeah,
long
so
ago.
I'm a
Okay.
newbie again.
Okay.
Because I had a totally different market.
Okay. Well, yeah, you were somewhere tropical, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere tropical.
I remembered that from them introducing her at the sales
Yes.
meeting. I was like, she is somewhere tropical. I want to talk to her at some point in time. That
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
That's
But
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have my real estate license down there. I was helping the office with
Oh,
all of their
okay.
marketing and social media and all
Very
that stuff.
interesting.
Now, everybody on Zoom, have you guys ever contacted an expired seller as a way to generate business for yourself?
Yes.
Sherry says yes. And so tell me about that. Was it wonderful? Did anything result from it?
I don't do it all the time. I have gotten a couple of listings from it.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm for sale by owners. I've got these little door tags I put on their doors with my business card.
Okay. Wonderful.
Nice.
So
I
do
haven't
you
had
think,
anything negative from, from them.
okay.
So was she able to sell these?
So LaJonna asked, were you ever able to sell an expired that you were able to convert?
Yes, because they're more motivated and usually they'll listen better, and you can usually get them priced better because sometimes they have been overpriced.
Sure, right? Because price and exposure.
You won't have to do it.
So you would say, in your very professional opinion, that it is absolutely worth the effort.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Every house has a buyer.
Very thank you. That makes me feel better hearing it come from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. I give you huge kudos because a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not going to call them. That's just silly. So good for you. I'm very proud of you.
Or I'll stop by the house and knock on the door.
She said she'll stop by their house and
See,
knock on the door.
And see, that's me too. Like you said,
Mhm.
face to face. That's me too. I feel like that you would have a better chance of actually
Mhm.
moving forward if they
Mhm.
see you
Mm-hmm.
and you just do your thing.
For sure.
Like, yeah.
For sure.
I was gonna ask if there was an etiquette or time when you call, like you just in that earlier said, it's like, I saw your today, it expired. I mean, I guess there is not really an etiquette. I've just heard some realtors complain about how the moment their listing expires, they've got a million calls coming in and they're like, hey, I was going to relist that. And, I've heard complaints about that. I don't know if there
They
was
should
an
direct that
etiquette.
energy into trying to figure out how to sell that property.
Yeah.
And that sounds really ugly, but if you have a listing that you and you know when that listing's going to expire,
Yeah.
like at that point, conversations should have been had with your
Exactly.
seller, and every effort should have been made.
That's true.
So I don't know, but I will say this as a side note. So obviously, if the listing was under someone in our own brokerage, I don't think it hurts to make a phone call or stop by an office and just say, hey, tell me about this listing.
I
So
think that
part
would
of
be
what
the
I'm
nice thing to
doing
do.
is I'm
Especially
trying
if
to
you work for the
extend.
same company.
Yeah, and they
For sure.
they may keep you out of a hornet's nest too by telling you that
Yeah.
this was,
Yeah, I think that's
you don't even
it.
wanna
Just
mess
goes
with.
like with
Yeah,
professional courtesy.
Yeah,
I
I
really
agree.
do. With our group especially, and like LaJonna said, it could very well be a huge hornet's nest that we just don't know about, that they could be protecting you from. To kind of give you the backstory. You just never know. But I think it never hurts to kind of ask, tell me, what's going on. Part of my business model is I'm extending my prospecting arms into
Right.
the expired listings, into the for sale by owners. So I just wanted to reach out to you
Yeah.
before I made that phone
Yeah,
call.
and I don't want to step on any toes.
Yeah.
I've heard a
Yeah.
lot of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So-
then, they have calls where they bash the other realtor. And it's like, this sounds awful.
And you don't
Yeah.
want to do that even
No.
if you know that the other realtor did something crazy. That's,
No.
Yeah.
I
no
like the way this
bad-mouthing.
never goes there.
That's
It
true.
never
The
goes
dialogue
there.
we have here never goes
Yeah.
there, and I think that you cannot go wrong with that. Even if you think that doing that might get you the listing, it's never going to pay off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not
Sure.
to badmouth somebody else.
That's kind of like whenever you're in an interview and you talk poorly about your previous employer. That's such a turnoff.
Hey, Kristen, the Beaumont board also sent out, before you go after expired listing, you may want to double check the MLS just to make sure it wasn't relisted with the
That's
same
so funny.
MLS
That's so
number.
funny because Mark just peeked his head in and said the same thing. You have to make sure that it wasn't relisted.
Hey, great minds think alike.
Yeah, and make
So-
sure that it's not, because she said the MLS just sent out an email recently about that. Just make sure that it's not being relisted by the same agent or another before you make that phone call. Again, just as a,
So how do we check that? Just look in
Just look in the MLS,
and
yeah.
just see what the current status is?
correct, yep. Precisely. That's so funny because as you were talking, Mark literally came around the corner and he was like, you better make sure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We think alike.
Y'all do think alike. I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
it's a good thing. I love Mark.
It's always a good thing. Always.
Always a good thing. I'm always calling Mark.
No, I think we all do. Okay. Do y'all have any other comments, questions about what we talked about this morning? All good? Yeah. Okay. Well, in the spirit of extending our prospecting arms, we're going to talk about open houses as a prospecting source for new leads today at 2:00. So hopefully you guys will be able to make it. And again, if you need the workbooks, they're on Back Agent. So they're easily able to be downloaded there as well.
And you're going to repeat all these?
Every month.
Okay, good.
Every month. Yes, ma'am. Okay, you guys. Well, thank y'all for those of you who joined us on Zoom and always those of you who joined us in class.
Thanks for your knowledge, Sherry.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.